What's that one thing you'll never forgive someone for? I made mistakes when I was younger. My wife and I were just in our early 20s. I had a lot of internal issues. We were teen parents. I felt like I wasn't enough for her, so I left. Moved back in with my parents, who lived less than 5 minutes away from our house. We were apart for a few months. All those nights apart, I think about how much she probably cried wishing I was next to her. All the heartbreak I put her through. How stupid I was. It kills me every time I think about it, which is often. This happened in 2009. I have tried to forgive myself, but I just can't. I have to forgive, that said. I have a hard time letting go what some friends who took advantage of me, and how I like following the golden rule and helping bad off people. One I knew since first grade. Wasted some thousands I won't get back. Even swear on their mum's grave they'd stop. Had to block them forever. I'm worried they'll make a new account, spin a pity story and hound me yet again. Also, those butt-wipe girls who over 8 or so years tried to ruin me. Beware hypocrites who everyone would take their side. And hurt me in more ways than one. I was a prospective young athlete and failed a progressive report in 8th English class. Arily got dropped from so many teams. And she refused to let me fix the grade until the next grading cycle, since I begged her to help me get a better grade to be allowed to play for the teams I was on. Mrs. Helfman from 8th grade English at Johnston Middle School. I will be coming for my revenge, you cunt. Also, anyone that is poor and has kids. Unless you got money, don't have kids because they don't deserve to suffer because of you being poor. It's hard to forgive my mother for emotional abuse and emotional neglect. I recently found out she was sexually abused as a kid, and that makes sense on why she was like that. I can understand why, but I never felt like I had a purpose in life, and even being bullied in daycare and school and yelled at. Used IDK if I was introduced to porn or he touched me if I even just making this memory up by my stepfather. I'm trying to figure out if that's correct. I have a tiny memory, but it's so foggy. When I was still in high school, my dad and his uncle, only 1 year older than him, opened up a tattoo shop, with my dad taking care of finances, and the uncle doing the tattoos. Things were great for a couple years. But then the uncle flaked, and things went under. Left us with over $30,000 of debt. On the plus side, when he came back to collect his things, my mum, of all people, let him have basically said she'd kill his ass if he ever showed his face again. He was crying by the end. Fuck that guy. Family or no. Ends and partner instead of me that I was banned from their house. Pretend to like me and act like the whole debacle never happened a year later, but then admit to other people that they never liked me, and then try to break up my relationship under the guise of helping me by telling me lies about my partner. Goodbye, you miserable, fake ass bitches. My life is way better without you. I had a girl who claimed to be my friend, only to turn around and date the guy I recently broke up with of 7 years. That one stung quite hard. I had confided in her I still was in love with him, and the breakup was hard. That I knew he was doing some really shitty things to me. Yeah. She didn't care. Turned around and dated him. When I called her crying about it and asking her how she could do that to me, she got mad at me. So yeah. Many years later. Fuck that bitch. My dad tried to kill my mum and me on Christmas Eve and never even had the guts to call and apologize. My mum for staying with him all these years after horrible abuse, and defending him by calling to yell at me after I escaped when the neighbors called the police when he tried to kill us. My brother for also, and calling me after speaking to my mum to berate me for no wanting to see an old man in jail. Both those calls came when I was in full panic after escaping. I got blamed for bullying at my private elementary school when I was 11. Even though I was really just being targeted by girls who were mad at me for something dumb. The principal made me apologize to them even though she knew I wouldn't ever do what they said I did. After the other girls left the office, the principal told me she had to make me apologize because their parents paid tuition, and since it was 2 against 1 she took their side for appearances. One of our friends banged the ex-GF of another friend just a few weeks after they broke up. Dad's article 1 of Bro Code, thou shalt not, unless you ask for permission. But anyway, my friend was upset about it. What a bastard. Makes me wonder if they were banging before the breakup. Needless to say, he's no longer part of the group. I know our paths will cross again one day, and I cannot wait for that day. Total dickhead. You think you know someone, right? Not an answer, just a comment. I would encourage everyone here to consider forgiveness, whether it be for religious or personal reasons or whatever. Holding anger or hurt in your heart isn't good for you. Try and understand the people who have wronged you. You don't have to justify it. Sometimes bad things are done purely because people are selfish. But don't let it weigh you down forever. I hope you can all find peace. Edit typo. My ex-husband dumped me in the most cruel way for a young lady 45 years younger than him. At the age of 65. When I was very ill, he decided that 20 was better. He lied to a judge to get a restraining order to get me out of the house I purchased. I lost so much money. But I'm much happier now. I forgive the divorce. I cannot forgive the cruelty. Who tells someone to go kill themselves? I've tried to forgive. Maybe I'm not there yet. When one of my friends at the time tried to compare me being gay to being sexist and racist, the entire friend group stood by him and removed me from the GC. Needless to say, I stopped hanging around them. I would have forgiven them if they didn't constantly make me out to be a bully for distancing myself and paint themselves as the victim in our drama. It became rather hopeless that talking to them about it was no use. My mum for having the family dog put down behind my back when I was at uni. I was coming home for Easter 2 weeks later. Over 10 years he was my rock. She told me the day after when a sister asked her if I knew. She had already taken all his things away and most of it was thrown away. I think she was thinking that I will find out when I go home, but the dog was my home. That house has not been my home since then. Not enough that my ex-wife cheated on me. Okay. She didn't love me anymore and thought she was in love with someone else. But when our friends and relatives asked why she was divorcing me instead of saying she didn't love me anymore, she told them that I was abusive. It took a couple of years before they began realizing what really happened. I forgive her for it. But it means the family doesn't trust her anymore. Was the one who abandoned her when she needed consoling over a dying friend, when she ran straight to another guy the same night after we had a few words about a drunken mistake from the night before. This is at 30 years old. 2 weeks into dating. I'll forgive her eventually for the entire heartbreak and emotional twister. But her boy is forgiveness hard to find her in. My best friend of almost 25 years refuses to acknowledge that her husband stole my song Christmas money. Easy. And it was $850. He was seen on camera. The recording was not available as my neighbor doesn't want to give it to me for fear he will return. He's a known thief. She's a good woman, but our relationship has changed and I don't look at her the same. She has never said anything. A family member agreed to do my hair and makeup for my wedding. She is a cosmetologist and on the day of, she was nowhere to be found. Her daughter had to try her best and I did my makeup pretty much. I haven't seen her since. Because she is a distant cousin of my mum's and we don't live in the same city. It's been like 20 years and I don't feel like I would be cool with her. A friend in college faked to be suicidal as a manipulation technique. I had already two friends killed themselves before that. So, when he threatened to kill himself, I got really freaked out. When I learned the truth, I cut off that relationship instantly. He made another suicide threat after that and I told him I didn't fucking care if he did it. And I meant it. The hospital that blamed my back pain on my medical condition rather than looking into it. 5 years we told them about it and now they have finally found what it is. It's severe and harder to deal with. We never once even heard the words "we're sorry." This is such a common thing for people with existing medical conditions. Everything gets blamed on them. 1. My mother for everything she put my brother, sister and myself through. She has left the three of us with trauma and scars we will never 100 heal from ever again. I've never given up on anyone, but I gave up on her a long time ago. 2. My ex for making me feel so used. Disgusted in myself and violated, I still haven't fully healed 10 years later. My dad cheated on my mom, which is bad enough. But she left him and took us kids to another state where her parents live, where she died in a car crash shortly after. Oh, and then he had custody of us, and the woman he cheated with raised me as mom from the age of 2. I found this out in my mid-20s from an aunt on my real mom's side. My wife's mother has epilepsy. Her parents sent her for violent exorcism for her outbursts, and then kicked their daughter and granddaughter out of the house when my wife was 2 years old. No support. They lived in squalor for several years. My wife still has a visceral fear of roaches. I have nothing nice to say about them. My brother, who disappeared for few days in the mid-80s, a month after our mother unexpectedly died. He left behind his 10-year-old son for another woman. Days before he reached out before cell phones. He ended up divorced with a new family and completely ignored us. His son, his siblings, nephews, etc. Selfish bastard. Screaming at a non-verbal child to wear a face mask during 2020. Not only does that kid have no way of understanding why someone is screaming at them, it's not okay to scream at kids, anyone. People in my area went from being nice and normal to cruel monsters. It was chilling in a way I'll probably never let go of.